You are watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, we'll be taking a look at other discussions on the program. From what we gathered, the Central Bank of Nigeria is making some changes to bank charges, and that will be what we'll be looking at. Now, soothing news came the way of the public last week as the Central Bank announced a downward review of the charges and rates on transactions across the banking ecosystem. Now, this was contained in the Central Bank of Nigeria new guide to charges by banks, other financial and non-financial, which applies to financial and non-financial institutions under its license or regulatory purview. Now, we'll take a look at the implication of this on our economy, and we're joined by financial analyst Muktar Mohammed, who joins us virtually this morning. Good morning and welcome today.
My pleasure being on Daybreak today. Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, Abuja.
Well, it seemed like good news to many Nigerians, isn't it? When we see the central bank waiting and reduce the charges that Nigerians are being charged on transactions, e-transactions, payment of bills, and the likes of it. What's your first reaction to this?
Good news, like you said, but depends on which device you are. If you're a businessman, it's good news in terms of transaction costs. But again, transaction cost is not what take your business to the next level. To the ordinary Nigeria, that would be good news also. But that depends on which side of the device you are. Because if you are still in the rural area, you still be using normal money agents and others. So the charges are still there. I think the good thing I see about it is the reduction that will come in the area, especially in the digital platform, because that is the platform that I think that they have not done well. If I'm being charged almost equivalent for making a digital transfer instead of going to your banking and congest the banking, or for me, I think that's a good thing. Then it brings up financial inclusion, which has been the take. So we might begin to have more people coming into the financial space, especially when you bring down the cost in terms of transaction costs, especially when you are using your digital device. For me, that's one area that can attract more Nigerians into the banking space. And again, you must not forget that Nigerians that are coming into the banking space also will be looking at, do I really want to come into the banking space? Because now, once you're in the banking space, you are open for tax and other things, and you have to pay in every transaction you have to pay your tax. But your COT, your VAT from those transaction costs. So are they going to bring down the cost in terms of the VAT? And I think that is what will interest a lot of businesses, especially big businesses.
How will banks now, how will it impact on the businesses of bankers, for instance, when you reduce some of this cost? I tend to think that this is how some of these banks make their money. So what would be the implication of this decision by the central bank?
This is part of the easiest ways where banks make their money. And I don't think it's anything good for the economy when I sit at the comfort of my house trying to do my banking transaction and I'm being charged extravagantly. I think for me, banks need to begin to think inwardly. And when you look at the transactional cost, it does not really add so much to their bottom line. CBN is trying to make sure the banks are becoming more innovative, more into borrowing, especially into the real sector. And I think that they've been able to do. So what we are seeing now is that banks are beginning to respond. They will have to respond with coming up with products that will attract them to make money. And that's how banking all over the world is done. Not just taking over transaction costs alone, and you think you are making, because they're just making out of people without adding value to them. So now they will need to come with value-added services to attract any profit. And I think the CBN already worked on that, especially in the area of loans. They make sure that banks have a certain amount of money that they must loan out every month or every quarter, every month, every quarter. Their balance sheet must have a certain amount that must be loaned out, especially to the real sector. So the CBN have done a lot on that already. So I think the bank will in turn now become more innovative, trying to create product where they can easily get more, make more profit instead of just relying solely on transaction costs.
Right now, others who are also part of this whole thing is the telecommunication companies. They are also, stakeholders in this conversation. So, do you see any implication on the telecoms as a result of this decision?
Remember that we had issues between the telecom and the banking in terms of the charges before then the National Communication Commission and the central bank intervened. And so we'll see those charges also come down because if affecting bank transaction, also you have to affect them. So I want to see how the CBN is going to go with that through the National Communication Commission to see how they will reduce transaction. But all this reduction in terms of is trying to achieve inclusion so that we have more Nigerians in the banking space than what we have now. So the more Nigerians we have in the banking space, the more government will begin to address some cases, especially in the area of inflation, in knowing how many, and then also help in terms of loans to small businesses, because then you begin to see their turnover, you begin to see those that are going to be able to pay if they have to borrow. So the bigger picture is there, but the short-term measures will see a lot of Nigerians coming into those space. And I think the bank, the telecommunication sector, most of them have money. They have been given license to also become money agents. They also will play according to the rule that the CBN will bring, and that, like I said, will reduce the cost. If they are bringing their own down, most Nigerians will prefer to do the mobile transaction than even using the banking app because it could be easier. But again, the CBN need to address the end user, the bottom line, which is in case there is a system, maybe sometimes you do a transaction and it's not going to use your telecom, you just use the telecom app. How do you address those challenges, especially when CBN have said that every challenges must be addressed within 24 hours. So that also they should look at that or answer that, because it's easier for you to do that through your banking plan, for going to the banking hall, make a complaint, and that is resolved. But with the telecoms, how are they going to work on that? I think those are what the innovation that the CBN will have to come, or the telecom themselves will have to come with a call center that will be able to resolve issues within the shortest possible time.
Right now, finally, I would like to also look at how this will have an implication on those doing POS business, for instance. I mean, we've seen the proliferation of POS operators in recent times, and all of that. Now we are seeing that there's a drop in transactions using the ATM, and from 100 naira to 50 naira thereabout. How is this going to, affect those in that business?
I think for those in those business, it will be those that are really actually doing the POS directly that will definitely be affected. And you see, when the CBN came with the app, especially the Naira app that they came up with, a lot of small businesses see that also as a means of trying to reduce Naira. It was trying to reduce the cost of transaction, because sometimes why you're seeing the reduction is that the POS terminals, there's a certain charge that they have to charge some of these businesses for every transaction, and these small businesses were looking at a way to reduce those overhead costs. That's why you are now seeing that when you go there, they'll say rather do a transfer to us directly, and I think that will continue now. Most of these charges are coming down, and the POS charges have not been able to come down because the POS charges have to do with a lot of technicality in terms of network management. These are not things that are being handled, because when they meet them, they tell you that the charge per transaction is almost as high as 70 naira. So when you are doing a transaction and at that cost, you need to make profit, and the end users need to make profit for every transaction. So we'll see whereby we'll begin to see more of the use of app. A lot of banks already have their app, so we'll begin to see where people begin to use a lot of mobile app, and that also will bring down the transaction cost. So for the POS, it might just be one area we might begin to see an end to so much, unless they are also, in terms of the cost of maintenance of those PS come downs, it still remain one of those avenues, especially for small businesses in the rural area. But if they are not able to bring down those costs to meet up with what we have in the other sector, we could see an end to the POS business.
Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspectives with us. We look forward to having you again. Thank you.
My pleasure. Good morning.
All right. Well, that was Muktar Mohammed. He's a financial analyst who joins us from Lagos to give us perspectives on this. Well, with that, we've come to the end of the show for today. Very interesting conversations, I may say.
Very, very interesting. You know, the whole issue of delay in court, you know, judgment, really, really very important. And we need to find means to curtail that in order to see justice served to the common man.
True. Well, they say that judiciary is the is the hope of the ordinary man, ordinary citizen in the world, not just in Nigeria. So we look forward to an efficient, a much more efficient system. With that, I would say bye. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on our YouTube and also follow us on all our social media handles. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining us this morning.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.
Bye.